What you're going to need for this is a pan with edges, a small container, a big strainer, or at least as big as possible. Make sure it's fine, and a bucket of decently fine dirt, but it doesn't matter because we're going to strain it later. Try to find some decently clean dirt. Don't worry about it too much because we're going to filter it out anyways. Just try to fill your container as much as possible because the amount of dirt that you put in it is not the amount of dirt that will be in your MudBall. You will lose about 75 to 60% of the dirt that you filter out, depending on how fine your dirt is. Okay, so I just got done with my second sift. I'm going to dump this. Actually the first time, there's a little bit I missed. So actually the first time that I dumped it, there was like 20 times more than what I have right now because it's just easier and quicker and less every time. So if you're getting less excess each time you filter, that's a good thing. So try to stop filtering it when like there's like barely any residue left behind that's like not fine, that hasn't made it through the filter. So this is what I have right now. It's not very fine and it has a little bit of vegetation in it if you look closely. There. So I'm just going to do it a few times with this filter, and then the other 2 times I'm going to do it with a stronger filter that's less big, but it does filter quite a bit better because it's more fine. Okay, so I'm just going to be filtering this out. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing a couple times with the big strainer, which isn't as fine, and then the other couple times will take a few more times because it's not as big, but with the even more fine strainer, so you get the best quality mud you can possibly get, or sorry, dirt. You might be wondering why you need fine dirt. It's just so it's shiny, and it will stick together more because there's more particles. So I'm going to skip through what I've sifted through this all a few times. You should actually notice that at the end of every sift, there's these little less fine parts, and I can actually see an ant there. That is actually the part that you don't want because it is less fine. So you're just going to want to do that until you see less of that each time, and once you upgrade to a higher grade filter, you should be seeing less and less of that each time. Okay, so I've now upgraded to a smaller but finer filter. You can actually see a pretty big difference. It might not look so on camera because cameras aren't as good as human eyes, obviously, but let's do this. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to, since you can't all just put it into one big strainer at a time, you're going to have to do small amounts, about 50% full because some might fall out in the process. And then you just want to hover it over a bigger container, your bigger container. So make sure you have a bigger container and just put it into there. And once you're just left with a little bit of that unfined stuff, you're going to want to do it again and again until that whole entire container is filled with all the fine stuff and there's no more in this tray. Okay, so I have my water and my purified dirt. Okay, my hands are nice and clean again. I'm going to do another process of this. Just same thing over and over till it's really smooth. And once you're happy overall with what you have, you can always do more. You are going to make it even more fine. Make sure you're compacting it as well. Compacting does 2 things. It pushes it all together so it's even more smooth, and it squeezes some water out, as you can see forming. Make sure your hands are dry each time you wash them, so then you don't add any new water to the ball. So I'm just rubbing it so it compacts. Make sure you really compact it pretty hard, but make sure it doesn't misshape it. Mine's in a nice ball shape, which I guess if you want you can do, but technically I guess you could make it into any shape you want. But I feel like a ball is probably the most satisfying and fun to do and easy, because when you compact it, you just have to go like this. So really do this for a few minutes, washing your hands every 15 seconds around, or until your hands get really dirty, until it gets really compact and smooth, and then you do another process to make it even more smooth. Okay, so now I have my dirt that's pretty wet, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my separate dry sand. You don't need a lot, as you can see here. So you just pat some on your hand. Some of it's gonna get wet as first, but you're going to create a layer of dry sand. Just rub the dry sand into the palms of your hand, and then rub it back onto the mud ball. This is going to take a few minutes, just to make sure the mud ball loses all of its wetness, but it will also be sticking together. So it's actually gonna feel really like unique. It's gonna feel, the middle is gonna feel really like wet and squishy, but the outside's gonna feel really firm. So you're gonna wanna do this until you've used all of your dry sand, and there's a new layer, a really new, nice flat layer to have on top. You also want to sift the top layer that you're using, the sand that you're using for the top layer, so it's also as shiny. Okay, I actually just switched cameras because my regular camera just died. The battery did. I'm just using a phone camera right now, but it's just as good around. Okay, so now I'm just rubbing it really nicely with a cloth. Feel free to use as much as you want, but don't really take too much of the mud ball away. Like, don't make it till it's like the size of a pea. But you're going to want to take down a decent amount of it, just so it brings it down to the part that's completely smooth. You will also want to compact it. Okay, so once it's pretty smooth, you're going to want to make it even more smooth with a microfiber cloth. There's barely any water and it's super smooth. Just look at this. Now barely any residue is coming off. So if I grab a sheet of paper towel and I just rub it across, it's not even that much. And the more you do it, the less is gonna come off. So once you've been doing this for around 15 minutes, it's just gonna look super fine. There obviously is a limit, and that limit is how fine your sand is. So if you just scooped up some dirt and put it in, it's not even gonna look that impressive because there's gonna be chunks of dirt. It's gonna be super blocky, and there's gonna just be a bunch of vegetation and stuff. So I'm gonna get back to you guys when I have this super shiny and super cool. So I'm not done yet, of course, but as you can see, there's like little tiny cracks and holes in the mud ball. Those are just from you not really filling in, but I know a quick fix to this. Okay, so I'm in the middle of sanding it, but as you can see, the cloth is pretty dirty. So you don't need water or anything. You can just shake it pretty bunch, and a bunch of it is gonna be coming off. Like, look at this. It already cleaned it a lot just by a few shakes. So just do that a little bit to get some dirt off, because after all, it is dirt. It's not like it's magical powder or something. What you're gonna wanna do, just get your finger, dip it in a little bit of water, put it on here. You wanna use barely any water. I probably just used too much. The reason is because now it's becoming pretty muddy again, and it's getting everywhere a little bit. Not really much, but actually I did a pretty good amount of water. So, and it also smooths it out a little bit. So again, dip your hand in water, just rub some on the mud ball. So just do this for a little bit. It's also good for the mud ball, just to harden it and to make it even more shiny. And once you're done with this, you can rub it all off by using the cloth, by just shining it. And then repeat. Make sure it's not too wet, because then you're gonna need more dry sand and it's gonna restart the whole process over again. So just keep on doing this. So I'm about done with the MudBall. As I said, it looks a little bit worse on camera, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And if you're wondering, I have my cat right next to me guarding the MudBall from anyone that wants to take it, because it does look like a jewel.